Welcome, everyone. This is a live video broadcast as part of our monthly Oneness and 12 Spheres of Life program. It's great to be with you. I'm Steve Farrell, the Worldwide Executive Director for Humanities Team. We're going to be covering a lot of valuable ground today. We've been so looking forward to this program. Anna Marie Peters, of course, is my co-host, and Bruce Lipton is our special guest today. I know you're going to enjoy this program. A quick introduction to Humanities Team as we get started. In Humanities Team, we see that there is only one presence, the divine, that we're all emanations of the divine. It's true for each of us in all of life. It doesn't matter how far our lives may be from reflecting this truth, it's still true. Our invitation is to live in communion with the divine and be an authentic expression of the presence, peace, and power that are our true essence. We don't need to be perfect or even excellent. We're invited to simply receive God's love and be an expression of that, each in our own way, to the best of our ability. We can be intentional about this, so we live this way each day. And of course, when we do this together, we create the world that we know is ours. Okay, concerning today's program with Bruce Lipton, we invite you to share your questions by placing them in the chat window. The sooner the better. We always get flooded with comments and questions when Bruce is with us. This, of course, is a 60-minute program. You might go ahead and begin sharing your comments and questions now. I'd also like to extend an invitation to those of you who receive value from our weekly programming. Our weekly programs cost us about $1,000 to produce each week, and we provide these programs free to the public. If you find value in our programming, we invite you to go to humanitiesteam.org, our website. At the top of the website, you'll see a yellow donate button. You can contribute there, whatever might be on your heart. And thank you to all of the people who have been contributing. I think we're putting in the window a little slide with some of the recent donors, and thank you for your generosity. Okay, my co-host Anna Marie Peters is going to come on next to share the sphere of life that we're focusing on today. Anna Marie is the country coordinator for Humanities Team South Africa. She's also the co-leader of the Oneness and 12 Spheres of Life initiative. She's a beautiful person. She's based in Pretoria, South Africa. And welcome, Anna Marie, to the program.
Thank you so much, Steve. I'm going to say hello in South African, one of our African languages, and it goes Sawubona, and it means I see you, and I see all of you. Hello, everyone.
Okay, and Anna Marie's going to also share the sphere that we're focusing on this month.
Great. So, Steve, let me go right ahead with that. So the sphere of science includes all areas and applications of scientific thinking and methodology. And instead of thinking of them as separate fields, they are seen as merging and cross-pollinating one another, allowing for greater insights and awareness of the interdependence of all sectors, systems, and all of life. Over the years, science has had profound impact on both the material and spiritual conditions of life. On the one hand, it has improved the material conditions of life, and on the other hand, it has had an undermining effect on the spiritual traditions of the world and a number of other areas such as health, nature, and so on, with this resulting into profound imbalances and consequences for society and for the earth for that matter. Technology that we have developed, for example, has given us unprecedented power to change the outer world, but we often use this power with no guidance from our moral or spiritual values. Whilst we are able to explain subtle phenomena from the outer world through sophisticated scientific theories, we seem to know precious little about the inner realities and consciousness and its relationship to matter. We find ourselves today at a time where there is a great need to balance our outer and inner knowledge and for the integration of spiritual wisdom and physical science. In this sphere, we consider that there is no way to remove the observer and ourself from our perception of the world. We see that our perception, and hence the observation upon which our theories are based, are not direct, but are shaped rather by the lens that we are looking through. In this sphere, we reveal the deep relations between physical and spiritual laws, and we support the idea that our current state of the world is not the way that we want it to be. As we continue to evolve in this sphere, science becomes ever more liberated and plays an ever-increasing role in assisting humanity to realize its full potentialities beyond dependence on the knowledge gained through our five senses only. Science helps us to see ourselves and all of life as the creators of our universe. Thank you, Stephen. Back to you.
Thank you, Anna Marie. You always set the table so beautifully for our discussion. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to bring on our special guest now. I'm going to read a brief introduction for our special guest now. Bruce H. Lipton, PhD, is an internationally recognized leader in bridging science and spirit. Stem cell biologist, best-selling author of The Biology of Belief, and recipient of the 2009 Goethe Peace Award. He has been a guest speaker on hundreds of TV and radio shows, as well as a keynote presenter for national and international conferences. Dr. Lipton's novel scientific approach transformed his personal life as well. His deepened understanding of cell biology highlighted the mechanisms by which the mind controls bodily functions and implied the existence of an immortal spirit. He applied this science to his personal biology and discovered that his physical well-being improved and the quality and character of his daily life was greatly enhanced. Dr. Lipton has taken his award-winning medical school lectures to the public and is currently a sought-after keynote speaker and workshop presenter. He lectures to conventional and complementary medical professionals and lay audiences about leading-edge science and how it dovetails with mind-body medicine and spiritual principles. He has been heartened by anecdotal reports from hundreds of former audience members who have improved their spiritual, physical, and mental well-being by applying the principles he discusses in his lectures. He is regarded as one of the leading voices of the new biology. And welcome to the program, Bruce. It's great to have you with us.
Steve, Anna Marie, thank you so very much for this opportunity, because we're in such a world of flux right now, and the science and religion is almost like competing with each other in a realm where they're both actually the same thing. And so when the new science comes out, it really gives us insight about ancient spirituality, because it's all in the realm of what we call quantum physics. And why is that relevant? There's so many different sciences on this planet: chemistry, biology, physics, and all that. But the most valid of all sciences on this planet is quantum physics. And why is it relevant? Because the principles of quantum physics are not suggestions. The principles of quantum physics are the mechanisms of how the universe works. Physics means mechanism. That's why you can say quantum physics, quantum mechanics, Newtonian physics, Newtonian mechanics. Relevance is simply this: the mechanisms described by quantum physics reveal a world that is so completely different than the one we've experienced, that we live in, that we think is the real world. When quantum physics reveals its truth, is we are creating this. It's consciousness that is creating the world scene. And the idea is, if we understand this, then we can employ our consciousness not to create the world that we are living in right now, but we can create a world which is nothing less than heaven on earth. And the idea is, we have to know who we are to engage this activity, and we have been misprogrammed. The knowledge that the public has in general is actually incorrect about life and biology and genes and all that. And so just very simply this: knowledge is power. We all agree on that. But I want to say the same thing that's more relevant, and that is this: a lack of knowledge is a lack of power. And we have been deprived of the powerful people that we are. So we walk around like victims in a world without knowing we are actually creating this. So with the new knowledge, hopefully the world will evolve into the real thing, heaven on earth.
Yeah, and you're certainly helping to point things in that direction. And of course, the honeymoon effect you described, which is one of your books, described exactly how this can work and how you live your life. Let me just share with listeners, this is a live program, so we can see your questions. We're going to get to them. Thank you. It's wonderful. They're already pouring in here, comments and questions. So in this format, I'm going to ask the first question, then Anna Marie will ask. So we'll ask questions for a little bit, then we're going to start bringing in your questions. So Bruce, let me bring you this question as we get started. In your book, The Biology of Belief, Unleashing the Power of Consciousness, Matter, and Miracles, you write about how a scientific epiphany precipitated an instantaneous personal transformation in your life. What did you learn at that pivotal moment? That might be a great way to get us started.
Okay, well, actually, back in this is a 50th anniversary. 50 years ago, I was cloning stem cells. Stem cells are embryonic cells, and what I realized at some point was that in my research, where I created genetically identical cells, 30,000 genetically identical cells, separated them into 3 different petri plates, and changed the environment, the culture medium. That's the environment the cells live in. And in dish A, the cells form muscle with one environment. A culture medium with a different chemical composition in dish B led to bone. So in one dish there's muscle, in one dish there's bone. Again, a different composition of the culture medium, and a third dish led to fat cells. I go, wait a minute, they were all genetically identical cells, but how come one dish has muscle cells, one dish has bone cells, and one dish has fat cells? It wasn't because of the genes, it was because of the environment. And this led me away from looking at genes in a world where every colleague of mine was so invested in genes. So I was like this weird guy off to the side going, I don't think it's the genes, it's really the environment. And what I later had to find out was, because my colleagues say, well, oh yeah, if it's the environment, tell us how it happens. There was no information about how environmental signals were controlling genes. So my research led to finding that the cell membrane, the skin of the cell, is the equivalent of the brain. The nucleus with the genes, jokingly, it's not jokingly, is the gonad of the cell. It's reproduction, and we made it the brain of the cell. In a lecture, I always joke, I say, how could a bunch of male scientists confuse the gonad with the brain? And the simple reality is, I started to see that the membrane was an information processor. It was reading the environment and then adjusting the biology to complement the environment. So as environments change, we can stay alive by adjusting our biology. So I'm looking at the cell membrane, and it was, I was not a spiritual person. I got to emphasize that. I was a cell biologist. Genes, proteins, molecules, that's the physical character of life. So I'm researching the cell membrane. How does it relay environmental signals to control genes? And I wrote this definition of the cell membrane down in 1985. I wrote, the cell membrane is a liquid crystal semiconductor with gates and channels. This is a biochemical definition. And in 1985, I said, oh, I just read that definition somewhere. And there it was in a book. I just got my first Macintosh, and there was a book, Radio Shack, Understanding Your Microprocessor. And I opened it up, and there it is in the introduction. A computer chip is a crystal semiconductor with gates and channels. And at first I go, oh, wow, what an interesting coincidence. The membrane and a computer chip have the same definition. And then it's like the reality hit. They're not like each other. They're exactly the same as each other. They're homologs, meaning that the structure and function of a silicon-based chip matches and complements the structure and function of the carbon-based cell membrane. It's an information processor. And then at that moment, the last thing that I just need to add was, well, I realized, look, my cells have a different identity than your cells, because if I take anybody's cells and put it into my body, the cell, my immune system will say not self and get rid of it. And if you take your cells and put it into anybody else's body, your cells will be rejected by their immune system as not self. There's a self. And where is the self? And this is the part that blew my mind, is on the surface of the cells, there's a set of protein antennas, just like little television antennas sticking up on the surface. No two people have the same set. And they're called, and some of them are called self receptors, receivers of self. I go, oh my God, they're on the outside of the cell. That the identity of a cell is based on these antennas. If you cut off the antennas, the cells are generic. There's no identity. You put the antennas back on and it has an identity. It's like, oh my God, the identity is not inside the cell. The identity is something from the field, the energy around us that was being picked up. And I stopped in that instant and said, oh my God, I'm not even in here. I am a broadcast being received by these cells. And so interesting, 2 little stories that will enhance this. Number one, if I take cells out of your body, move them 40 miles away, and this has been done a number of times, and I have you in this room, and I have the electrical readout of the cells from 40 miles away on a split screen. You on one half, the electrical activity of cells on the other half of the screen. If you elicit an emotional response, the cells 40 miles away will become electrically activated and excited. And it's like, how'd that happen? And the simple reality is cells are like television sets. They have antennas. I can have a television set here in this part of California, move it 40 miles away, turn it on, and I still have the same station. The cells are receiving a broadcast that is not directly related to being in my body. It's in the field. Then lastly, and this is a cool one, people that receive transplants, such as a heart transplant or lungs or kidney transplant, start to pick up the characteristics of the donor of that organ. People have said, oh, cellular memory. And I go, look, I'm a cell biologist. Cells have enough trouble remembering if they're a liver cell or a bone cell, much less the idea, do they like chicken McNuggets? This is not in the cell. The point was simple. Even though the person that donated the heart, for example, is dead, their cells are still recording their field. Their cells are still downloading who they are. So the recipient of a heart actually has two identities, one from their own body and now the one from the transplanted organ. The point is the heart antennas are receiving the identity of who that person is. So the characteristics of that person become blended with the characteristics of the recipient of the organ. And why is it all relevant? And the whole idea is, like, which blew my mind, is you can't die. You're not even in here. And that if an embryo shows up in the future with the same set of, it's a very complex set of antennas. If an embryo shows up with the same antennas that you have now in the future, then that person, that entity would be downloading you. And here's the important part. It doesn't make a difference if it's male or female. It doesn't make a difference if it's white, black, yellow, red. That's the television set. We are the broadcast. And when we start to recognize this, we start to recognize, oh my God, every human is receiving a piece of this broadcast field of humanity, that each of us is like a little facet of an eye, and all of us collectively are the vision. And so the beautiful part about all this led to an understanding. The evolution that we are facing now is not the evolution of the human being. It's the evolution of the community of humans, that we're recognizing all humans are part of the same source. That collective part of humanity, when we come together, is called humanity, a superorganism, humanity. Right now, we're a bunch of cells fighting each other, which is equivalent of autoimmune disease, self-destruction. And the evolution is when we realize we are all part of the same source and that we're all one body, then the expression of that superorganism will bring peace and harmony to this world. So we're in a transition of moving from separation into recognizing wholeness and community, because that's where we have the power as individuals to change the world.
Boy, beautiful. Thank you. And that really, I know, Anna Marie, that sets you up well, because you'll go right into this.
Gosh, it's so fascinating. I'm going to have to listen to this again and again to really wrap my mind around this. But Steve, you asked a question about beginnings, and before we came online, we discussed briefly the question of children. And so here is this question for you, Bruce. I was sharing my daughter and her husband. They are both teachers, Montessori teachers, and I'm a granny of a 4-year-old and a 4-month-old child. So the whole question of immunization and the mind of the child, all of this is so relevant for us right now. So they, as Montessori teachers, they're really passionate about her philosophy. And Maria Montessori writes that she observed what she speaks about, the phenomenon that is called the absorbent mind. Now, on your website, under resources, is a podcast with you speaking about what you teach your child in the first few years lasts a lifetime. So I'd like for you to please share more about this statement with us.
The nature of this immune system that we discussed earlier before?
Yeah, and no, the absorbent mind.
Yes.
Because we were speaking we were speaking about beginnings just now. So Steve was asking you, where did this all begin to you? So I'm thinking about children and the fact that they have an absorbent mind. And on your website, you say that what we teach our children in the first few years lasts a lifetime.
Oh, this is the part that we really have to come to recognition with. The biology is coming clear with the physics. The physics, let's start with the basic physics. Quantum physics recognizes that the illusion of a physical world that we're seeing right now is an illusion. It's created through our consciousness. This is a fact of quantum mechanics. So it's not like, do you want to believe this is an illusion, or do you want to not believe it's an illusion? That's not a choice. The reality is, this is a quantum mechanical universe, and it's based on, now they'll get to the mind. And I go, oh, the mind, that's the first error. The mind says there's only one mind. And the fact is, no, there are two minds. They have different functions, and most important, it represents. So here it is. There are two minds. The conscious mind, the latest evolution of the brain, right behind your forehead, is the seat of our spirituality, our uniqueness as an individual. What makes us different from everybody else is the conscious mind. It's a creative mind. The subconscious mind, which was there before the evolution of the conscious mind, is more of a habit mind. It learns an experience, and then once it learns the experience, you can push the button and play that experience over and over and over again for 100 years. To give you an example, walking is a program. We learned this before age 2. And guess what? I don't care what age we are, almost all of us never had to learn how to walk again, because once the program is in, it'll be permanent in there until you find a way to change it. So now I say, here's the product. The conscious mind connected to us is our wishes and desires. If I say, Anna Marie, tell me what you want out of your life, and you give me your wishes. I want to be healthy, happy, I want to have romance, I want to have a great job. I go, great, this is creative, but it comes from the conscious mind. Then I say, what about the subconscious mind? I say, the subconscious mind has programs. And here, this is a step back 1 second to explain it. If I buy a brand new iPod, the music player, brand new iPod, take it out of the box. The front of the screen is called touch screen, which is creative. Make a playlist, adjust the volume, adjusting, you can create. And I say, I got a brand new iPod, take it out of the box, and on the touch screen, I push play, and nothing happens. And it's like, I got a defective iPod. And then some little 7-year-old kid comes up to me and says, you can't play anything until you download something first. And all of a sudden I go, oh, this is the nature of consciousness. A child cannot be conscious if it has nothing to be conscious of. So the first 7 years, nature creates the brain, the nervous system, as a record device. To record what? Let me just say what? What rules does it take to be a member of a family and a community? If you start to list the rules, you'd have a massive book of all the rules of how to behave and how to respond. And I say, well, teach an infant those rules. And you can't teach an infant those rules. I go, yeah, but the infant learns them because the brain is operating at a lower vibration for the first 7 years called theta, which is imagination. That's where kids mix the real world and imaginary world. Tea parties, a broom is a horse. That's a theta, but theta is hypnosis. And why is that relevant? The first 7 years, you learn how to be a member of a family and a community by observing other people and downloading their behavior in theta, which is hypnosis. So then here's the point. The fundamental programs of how to respond to life you got in the first 7 years. The conscious mind wasn't even working, so you didn't filter anything. Whatever you saw was downloaded. And I say, well, then the behaviors that are in your subconscious mind didn't come from you, don't answer your wishes and your desires. They're other people's programs that you downloaded. So then I go, psychologists tell us that 70% of those downloaded programs in the first 7 years are disempowering, self-sabotaging, and limiting beliefs. The kind of things that kids hear, who do you think you are? You're not that smart. You can do better. Recording that makes a program. And so most of us grow up with these negative programs. You say, well, that's subconscious. I don't need to deal with that. I'm going to create my world with my conscious wishes and desires, the things that I want. I go, cool, except here's a fact of science. Only 5% of the day are we operating with the wishes and desires of the conscious mind. 95% of the day, our life is programmed by the beliefs that were downloaded in the first 7 years. The reason is simple. When you're thinking, then the taking over of your functions, walking, driving a car, doing a job, the everyday functions. When your conscious mind is busy thinking, it's inside. Thought is inside. So conscious mind lets go of the outside, but subconscious is autopilot. So when you're thinking, you run any of the programs in your subconscious. But then we go back and say, geez, most of those were negative and disempowering. And here's the point. Because the conscious mind is thinking 95% of the day, the conscious mind is not paying attention to the behavior that is playing through our subconscious mind. The story I give in the lectures, 20 years, same story. You had a friend sometime, you were close to your friend, you knew your friend's behavior, and you knew your friend's parent. And then one day you see that, oh my God, your friend has the same behavior as their parent. You get excited, you go, hey, Bill, you're just like your dad. And then you back away from Bill. Bill goes ballistic. How can you compare me to my dad? Everyone laughs, and I go, this is why the profound story. Everyone else can see that Bill behaves like his dad. The only one who doesn't see it is Bill. The reason is he's using that behavior because his conscious mind was busy, and therefore he didn't see the behavior. Now, the most profound point of that story, we are all Bill. Every one of us is operating 95% of the day from subconscious programs, that our conscious wishes and desires are only 5%, that we do not see the sabotaging programs that come from the subconscious. I say, what's the net result? The net result is this. I wake up in the morning with wishes and desires of what I want from my life, and then come home at night not fulfilling any of them, but not seeing that I was even involved, which leads me consciously to believe I'm a victim. The world's not giving me wishes and desires, and it turns out, no, 95% of the day you were shooting yourself in the foot. And then you come home and look at, yes, Anna. So the point about it is this, are we creating our lives from our beliefs and desires in the conscious mind? The answer is no. We're creating our lives from the subconscious. Relevance is simply this. The Jesuits, for 400 years, have said, give me a child until it's 7, and I will show you the man. What people didn't understand they were saying is exactly what the new biology reveals. The first 7 years is your programming. The next part of your life is 95% of your program. So whatever the program is, that's what you become. And the reality is we need to change this. We need to identify that we have to reprogram those limiting, sabotaging beliefs because they are preventing us from expressing the creative ability we have. And just I'll try to end this real quickly on this point and say, lots of people have seen the movie called The Matrix. And you say, oh, The Matrix is science fiction. I go, no. The Matrix is a documentary. Every one of us has been programmed. Every human has been programmed. And that 95% of our life reflects the nature of the program. And then just to add this one thing, in the movie, there's a choice to take a blue pill and a red pill. If you take the blue pill, you wake up and you're back in the program and life is just the way it's always been. But if you take the red pill, you get out of the program. And here's what I want to offer. Most people out there have taken the red pill and didn't know that it happened. And I said, well, when was that? I said, when we fall in love, deeply in love, our life changes in 24 hours. You could have a sucky life every day, blah, 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 blah. And then you meet this person, special, and 24 hours later, you're so deeply in love. And what are you thinking? My God, life is beautiful. Heaven on earth. I am happy. I am healthy. I love my life. I go, wait a minute. For all those years, it sucked. And then 24 hours later, it's heaven on earth. It's like, and science has recognized this fact. And this is why I want to close with it. The moment we fall in love, we stay mindful, which means we stop thinking. And when we stop thinking, then consciousness is controlling our biology, wishes, and desires. When two people meet each other, fall in love, stop playing programs for the first time, and start creating from wishes and desires, the honeymoon, that's the character. And then I go, wow, that's great, because all of a sudden it's heaven on earth, because you stop playing the program. And I go, and what about the honeymoon? I go, it doesn't last that long. I go, why not? Because inevitably we start thinking. And as we start thinking, the old beliefs start showing up, the negative things, and they sabotage the honeymoon. And so the simple reality is this. A, we've been programmed. 95% of our life is an expression of the program. B, when you fall in love, it's a moment where you stop playing the program. And I go, and what was the consequence of stop playing the program? Blah, blah, blah life turns into heaven on earth in 24 hours. The simple reality is, well, what if you just stop playing the damn programs in the first place? And the answer is, oh, then you'd have a honeymoon every day of your life for as long as you live on this planet.
Wow. Steve, can I ask quickly, because on the point of children, at least for parents who are more aware, if we're saying that the first 7 years, are so crucial, what is it then that they can do differently, to have a different impact, to get children to focus more on what they want instead of, being in the mind? Is that even possible?
Yes, the whole idea is what we have to be is what is called conscious parents. I said, what do you mean conscious parents? I mean, not being from your program, because if you play your program, your child, which is in record, theta, will record your program. And so the issue is this. I say, okay, I'm going to be a conscious parent. I go, yeah, well, most people, that's 5% of the day. So for 5% of the day, I'm being the really good conscious parent. Unconsciously, 95% of the day, I am playing the same damn programs that I got from my parents, who got it from their parents, who got it from their parents. At some point is, oh my God, we're just propagating these disempowering beliefs from generation to generation. I say, how powerful these beliefs? Let me give you an insight. They looked at the fate of children who were adopted into families where there's cancer. And you know what they found? They found that the adopted child will get the same family cancer with the same probability as all the natural siblings, except what? The child came from completely different genetics. All of a sudden it was, cancer isn't genetics, cancer is lifestyle. Cancer is belief system. And this is why remission in cancer is always associated with what? Changing our consciousness, changing our belief about who we are and how we live on the planet. Boom, the cancer can disappear, because the cancer is a reflection of our thoughts, which are not supporting and healing us. And so all of a sudden I say, oh my God, the power of mind and belief. And I say, I want to be a parent. Well, if I want to be a parent, I have to make sure that my behaviors when I'm not paying attention are not repeating what I learned from my parents and their parents. And so basically, if I can live that conscious life, then my child is downloaded with a completely different behavioral repertoire. If I'm conscious and I'm creating wishes and desires, then I'm going to be involved with creating a child with the power to create their wishes and desires, and I'm not limiting them. And so we have to become conscious parents. And when that happens, we raise the most powerful children on this planet who know they're creators, and then have the option of saying, if I'm creating this, do I want this world that we have? And I go, no. I say, what world do I want? I say, the same one that I experienced when I fell in love. I want that heaven on earth. And I said, well, that's a creation. And so basically, we need to get out of the program. And if I just add this, just to help people, look, the programming started in the last trimester of pregnancy and goes through age 7. So if I asked you, I say, so what program did you get when you were 0? So, I have no idea. Okay, what program did you get when you were 1? I don't have any idea. So all of a sudden, it says, wait, programs are running my life, and I have no idea of the program. Why? Because I wasn't conscious when the programs were going in. And now, so all of a sudden people say, well, how am I going to know what my programs are? And I go, here's the fun part. 95% of your life is coming from your subconscious program. Point. Your life is a printout of your subconscious programs. Simple. Everything you like that comes into your life, that things that you like, and they come in because you have a program to acknowledge and bring them in. But here's the one I want people to understand. Anything you work hard at, anything you put a lot of effort into and you struggle over to make happen and you're sweating over it, I'm working to make this happen. Question, why are you working so hard? Answer, inevitably the program in your subconscious mind doesn't support that destination. So your effort is doing what? Overcoming a program. So I said, well, what are your programs? And I go, look at your life. The things you like are positive programs that you possess, because if they come in, that means your programming acknowledges them. But everything you want that you work hard at and seems to be out of reach and you keep trying to get there, the struggle is because your programming does not support that end. And if you change the programming, you can create a whole new world.
Wow.
All right, well, yeah, I'll follow that. Let me just say, boy, we've got a great viewing audience. Thank you, all of you, for being here. We got just a terrific audience today, and the questions streaming in. I'll just kind of pull from some of the questions in this next, the next thing that I bring to you, Bruce. Gazelle brings in Waldorf schools and their recognition of childhood development. My kids go to Waldorf school. And then Beth brings in the emotional freedom technique, which you talk about, Bruce. And of course, you also have this book that we chatted about just a little bit ago, or that I referenced, The Honeymoon Effect, which talks about really living in that state of heaven on earth, of honeymoon year round. I suspect that must be what your personal practice is, because you embody this. So what is emotional freedom? You know, the book that you've written, which brings that in, but talks about much more. What can you kind of distill what some things might be to get us into that 5%, so we're living that 95% instead of 5%, and also as parents that we're helping our kids to grow up that way, taking the red pill, so to speak.
Yeah, well, the first thing is, I mentioned earlier, I said we have two minds, conscious and subconscious, and that I said they have different functions, and we mentioned that the conscious mind is creative, so that gives you the opportunity to manifest wishes and desires. That's where consciousness manifests wishes and desires. The subconscious is the habit mind. It's very little creativity, mainly just push the button and play the behavior. And again, it's not a negative mind in a sense that the mechanism is fabulous. Again, if you haven't had to relearn how to walk since you were 2 years old, congratulate the subconscious mind for this. But here's the thing. The conscious mind, being creative, can learn in any number of different ways. Read a self-help book, listen to this program, can change the conscious mind. Just even going, aha, I have a new idea, that could change the conscious mind. But the subconscious mind is the habit mind. And by emphasizing it as a habit mind, there's an important point. Habits, you don't want a habit to change, you know, just like, bloop, oh, it just changed overnight. I forgot how to walk this morning. It's like, no, if I have a habit and it's useful, I don't want to interfere with that habit. So here's the point. The habit mind resists change because it says it's a habit. I learned how to walk. Don't change it. It's working really pretty good. So if you want to change the subconscious mind, you have to find a way to get into the subconscious mind. So there are three ways, and this is really important because there are two natural ways that the subconscious mind learns. The first, as I said, was hypnosis. Theta. When your mind is in theta, whatever you're experiencing is going straight into the subconscious program. Theta is below consciousness. So whatever you experience in a state of theta is going straight into the subconscious. If you see a hypnotherapist, they try to relax you, you know, watch the little pendulum and get dizzy or whatever. That's just to relax you, because when your vibration drops down to near theta, that's when you can put a new belief in. So I just want people to know you don't need to go to a hypnotherapist, because every night when you go to bed, when your conscious mind is finally letting go, and that would be a vibration called alpha, as soon as you disconnect from consciousness and you're in sleep, the next range of brain activity is theta. That's the same as you were before 7. I say, why is it relevant? I say, putting a pair of earphones on your head as you're going to bed and having a program play, meaning I want a program for health or a better job or whatever the heck of the program I want to have as my belief. I put those earphones on at night, and as I go to sleep, the moment my conscious mind disconnects, the program is going straight into the subconscious, and this is called auto or self-hypnosis. And this is a very effective way of changing the belief system. So, and then I say, well, what do you want to change? And we just said, oh, well, look at your life and you know where you're struggling, and then you want to turn that struggle into a program or behavior that is not struggle, and now you know what you want to program. So self-hypnosis is number one, and that was the way we learned in the first 7 years. And I said, well, how'd you learn something after age 7? And it was like, oh, repetition. That was habituation. So if you want to make something new, then you have to habituate it. Now, some people think, oh, I put a sticky note on the mirror. I go, that's not a habit, that's a suggestion. A habit is you actually have to do a repetitive exercise. I like the current terminology because the term is summarized as fake it till you make it. Meaning, let's say you want to be happy and you're not happy. I said, well, then every day you just keep saying to yourself, I'm happy, I'm happy. And you look around and your conscious mind's going, that's not true. I'm not really happy. I say, no, just keep repeating, I am happy, because the repetition will program the subconscious to be happy. And I go, why is it relevant? Well, if the subconscious is running the program 95% of the day, and the subconscious program is you are happy, then by definition, the subconscious will ensure that you are happy every day, because the function of the mind is to take a program and manifest it as reality. So if I put a program, I am happy, and my current life is not really happy, the function of my mind is to create happy. So all of a sudden it's like, well, you can be happy just by saying it. So repetition is part 2. And number 3, there's a whole bunch of new psychological modalities collectively referred to as energy psychology. Energy psychology are processes that engage super learning. You go, super learning? I go, maybe you've seen somebody in a bookstore read a book by just moving their finger down the page. As fast as they move the finger down the page, they read the page, so they can read an entire book in 10 minutes just moving their finger down the page. That's an example of super learning. Energy psychology modalities engage a super learning characteristic, which allows a new program to be super learned in minutes. So in other words, you can reprogram a subconscious using these belief modalities called energy psychology. You can rewrite programs in minutes. And thank God, because the world situation is such that human behavior is precipitating the 6th mass extinction, which we're looking at when you look out the window right now. And therefore, what the significance is since we are creating it, we need to change the way we're living, our culture, our beliefs, to become more in harmony with nature. And therefore, this new technology, the energy psychology, to me is the nature's answer to that. It's like necessity is the mother of invention, and we have a big necessity to change our belief systems very rapidly to help forestall this extinction that is looming. So energy psychology, and just very briefly, on my website, which is very simple, brucelipton.com, under resources, I list, I think, 30 different modalities of belief change mechanisms. So under brucelipton.com, look under resources, scan 30 different ways by which you can change your beliefs, your programming in minutes.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for that, Bruce. Okay, and Anna Marie, over to you.
Yeah, Bruce, as I'm thinking this, I mean, we are so brainwashed. At the same time, we are living in incredible times with technology and the internet, and we spoke about the power of information a little bit earlier. So thank heavens that we are living in times when information is more and more available, because I'm thinking about the authority that science has in the world. So it is so powerful, that people don't question it. There are people just that, they just say, well, this is science, this is how it works. But we do see at the same time how science can be so destructive. I'm thinking, for example, about psychiatry and the question of, where human experience is outrightly pathologized and drugged. And we are told, about who we are and who we are not. And people simply buy into that and they just don't question it. And when you do question it, you are, being looked at as if you are some kind of a fool. So, I just want to say that I am so grateful that we are living in times when information is available. And for those who want to know, the information is there.
Well, this is really important part about the information. The information is, we say the word science. I go, what is science? Well, science is supposed to be this endeavor that looks at the world and adjusts its belief systems as new and new information comes in. What we're finding right now, and it's an unfortunate situation, is that there are 4 fundamental beliefs of science that we bought as true that are being propagated by interests such as the pharmaceutical industry and keeping us from learning the truth, because these 4 beliefs turn out to be wrong, and yet they're the beliefs that shape how we live in the world. I refer to them as myth perceptions. That's not a lisp. That's M-Y-T-H, myth perceptions, myths that we bought to be true and are absolutely flawed. And yet if you live your life according to these beliefs, you have become disempowered. The first belief, for example, is the conventional, medicine is based on the belief of a Newtonian universe. And you go, okay, what the heck is that? And I go, from 10,000 years ago or more, humans knew there were 2 realms to the universe, an invisible realm and a physical mechanical realm. 10,000 years ago, the indigenous people such as Native Americans and First Nation people in Canada lived in harmony with their world because they never disconnected the invisible from the visible. They always said everything has spirit, a drop of rain, a blade of grass, a deer, a human, everything is engaged with spirit. So we never separated spirit from matter. But after Newtonian times, there was a separation. And in Newtonian science, it says the physical world is not influenced by the invisible world. So forget about the invisible world, focus on the mechanical world. And this is Newtonian. So it says a body is physical. You want to affect it, you have to have something physical called drugs. And all of a sudden, there's a reason for the pharmaceutical company, because they said, your body is physical, and we make physical signals, drugs, to affect your body, and that's the only way you can do it. And I go, well, that was true until 1925. 1925, quantum physics comes in and says, it's an illusion of materiality. Everything is energy, and energy is more powerful in shaping the world than is matter. And in fact, a quote from Einstein that I use, and it's a very fundamental, so important quote, is the field, which represents the invisible energy, the field is the sole governing agency of the particle. Particle is matter. Field is energy. And the quantum physics understanding is energy is shaping this. You want to change this? Change it with energy. Don't try and change it with physical. And so basically, this is why quantum physics starts to recognize your consciousness is the energy field, which is shaping your experience on this planet. You want to change your life? The chemicals and the drugs and the pharmaceutical stuff, that gets in the way. You want to change your life? It's consciousness, thought, and belief. And the issue is, if you believe you can, you can. And if you believe you can't, you can't. That's a old Henry Ford statement. And it's a true statement. And basically says we have to change our beliefs at this point, because the beliefs we've been programmed with, such as this is a Newtonian mechanical universe, is completely false. That takes us away from understanding energy, field. And here's an important thing about physics. The definition of the field for physicists is invisible moving forces that influence the physical world. And I go, oh, interesting. The definition of spirit, invisible moving forces that influence the physical world. And all of a sudden you start to say, oh my God, quantum mechanics has returned the concept of spirit, not as some, new age thingy or old spiritualism thingy, that spirit is field, and field is the sole governor of particle, matter. And all of a sudden you say, oh my God, we left the spirit out of the equation ever since Newtonian physics. And now quantum physics says you can't leave it out. It's primary above everything else. So number one, spirituality is in terms of physics called field, and field in terms of physics is what controls life. You want to change life? Change the field, change the consciousness. Okay, that's number one. Belief number two, that we are victims of our genes, that genes turn on and off and control who we are. Totally false. Genes have no self-actualization. Genes don't turn on anything. They don't turn off. Genes are blueprints to make the proteins of the body. I say, why is it relevant? Because we've given power to something that doesn't even exist. The idea that genes can make a decision and turn on and off, it's completely false. Genes are turning on and off in response to our perception and our environment. And all of a sudden, I go, oh my God, then we are the masters of our genes. We're not victims of heredity, that cancer's running in my family and it's the genes. No, less than 1%, less than 1% of disease is even connected to genes. 90% or more of disease is not living in harmony. That's basically stress is what the cause is. Number 3 belief that's completely wrong and sabotages the world in which we're living is the belief in Darwinian theory that says that life is a struggle for survival with a competition for fitness. The reality is this: that makes the world a battleground, competition, survival, struggle. And I go, look, there was a garden, and this Garden of Eden, if you want to call it like that. A garden is not a battleground. A garden is the height of cooperation and community. And the reality is we've turned the garden into a battleground. And the result is, look what we're doing. We're creating our own extinction by destroying the garden. So our belief is completely wrong. We have to change how we live on the planet. And lastly, the belief that evolution is a result of random genetic accidents. I go, why is that belief so bad? Because if I ask a question, then why am I here? And the answer is, hey, it was a whole bunch of genetic accidents. Then it means I have no purpose. I just got here by accident. I go, completely false. Evolution is derived by directed mutations, by dealing directly with environment and communicating back and forth. And we're not here by randomness. We're here like every other organism on this planet, and that is to create harmony in the garden. That's why we were here. Having mistaken that and then ending up destroying the environment, guess what? Nature's turning around going, oh man, Earth has a bad case of humans, and it's time to create a fever, heat up this place, and get rid of those viruses, humans who are destroying the garden. And that's why we're facing our own extinction. Until we learn to recognize, no, we are gardeners, just as the Native Americans and First Nation people always said we were, that by failing to take care of the garden, then today we are looming on the edge of the 6th mass extinction. I say, these fundamental beliefs are wrong, and yet science is propagating them. And I'm going, well, then science is religion, because science is operating from beliefs that don't even fit the real world anymore. When we put the new science in, that's where empowerment comes from, empowerment of the people. And I trust the people over the 1% that are running the system, because almost everybody wants the same thing: peace, love, safety, food. Everybody wants the same thing. And if we give the power back to the people, people like when they fall in love and create a honeymoon effect for themselves. But what if everybody created the honeymoon effect? Then the result would be Earth would be heaven, which I fully believe it is.
Yeah, boy, beautiful. I'm going to go to a question from Brian in Toronto here, Bruce. And we only have about 2 or 3 minutes here in response, because I've got to share something after that. But Brian asks in Toronto, he says, is humanity suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder? And if so, how can we address this collectively?
Well, what we have to do is start to recognize, is this an accident that we're living in? Is this just a coincidence? Are we being victims of a world that's out of control? And the first thing is, no, we are creating the world. This is quantum physics. I love it. There's a paper in Nature, one of the most prestigious scientific journals in the world, by a professor of physics, Richard Kahn Henry, Johns Hopkins University. I'll just read the last sentence in that thing. And this is the final sentence in this paper on physics. It said, the universe is immaterial. It's mental and spiritual. Live and enjoy. When we live from that fact of science and start living from a mental and spiritual world where we're creating, then the earth does become heaven. And this is what we need to do. So anything that we're living on in the stress and the learning of our, we're weak, we're frail, we're vulnerable. Humans are open to viruses, bacteria, parasites. It's like that is the farthest thing from the truth. We are the most powerful organisms on this planet. You can walk across fire, but you damn well better have your belief right to make it work. Placebo effect. all that healing from the placebo effect was consciousness. It had nothing to do with the surgery or the pills or anything. And people have to recognize, oh yeah, true, I healed myself with my thoughts. And I go, you created everything with your thoughts. And what people, I just want to add this because it's so important. We talk about placebo effect as positive thoughts. I go, yeah, what about negative thoughts? We don't talk about that. And I go, they're equally powerful to the positive thoughts, but they work in the opposite direction. So the reality is thought is power. If you're not thinking positive thoughts and you're thinking negative thoughts, you manifest those. And all of a sudden it says, we have to start recognizing these negative thoughts, which occupy the vast majority of our thoughts, are changing the world and taking our power away because we're creating negative when you could turn around and have the honeymoon effect and create the most positive life on this planet. Same person, same world, different thought.
Yeah, boy, well, it's so true. So this whole affirmative prayer and all of the things that you mentioned, these resources on your website, and you mentioned over 30 different resources that help people to kind of think in that direction consciously, creatively, generatively. So awesome. Bruce, these programs with you are amazing. We're going to have you back on here real soon again because there's just not enough time really to explore all of what we want to get to.
Steve, Anne-Marie, and Garth in the background, I want to thank you all for this because there's so much evolution going on right now. People's heads are up in the air like, what the heck is going on? The world is scary. And I just want to close with this point. Thank goodness the chaos we're experiencing right now is occurring for this reason. We're moving out of a culture and a civilization that has precipitated the sixth mass extinction, which will include us. The only way you can survive this planet is to stop living the way we have been living, because that's where the problems come from. So when we see the world falling apart, this to me is like, well, thank goodness, because if it didn't fall apart, it's going to be a worse scenario than I could ever tell you. And so I want people to look at the world and say, it's falling apart. And I go, this is the benefit, because when it falls apart, it offers the opportunity to create something new. If it doesn't fall apart, we're going to follow the same pathway down to the same end. And so I just want people to stop and say, okay, it's falling apart. I'm not afraid, because this is the opportunity to create the future that we all want.
Boy, that is so true. So highlight and underscore that, that thank God that it is falling apart, because if it didn't, where would future generations be? We're clearly off the path. If this were an airport, we're not on the asphalt anymore. We're off the gravel and probably off the grass.
Oh.
So yeah, thank you. Thank you, Bruce.
We're in trouble.
So that's BruceLipton.com, BruceLipton.com to find resources from Bruce. Also, and Anna Marie or maybe somebody on our team, we can put a book, the name of a book in the window for raising conscious kids. Unless, Bruce, there's a name that you want to reference real quick here. If there's a book that you're aware of. I know in Humanities team, there are many books that we're familiar with. One of the viewers wanted to know, is there a book books we might recommend for raising children consciously? So we'll get to that in the window. Let me get to some important announcements here. Before I do, I want to again thank Bruce Lipton, Anna Marie Peters. Anna Marie's my co-host, my marvelous, beautiful co-host based in South Africa, and Bruce Lipton, the amazing Bruce Lipton. Thank you. What a fabulous program. Wow, I'm like you, Anna Marie. I'm going to probably go back and watch this one again to make sure I ingest all of it. So I'll thank him some more, but let me cover a few things here. This year, in order to create a year-round Global Oneness Day program, we've partnered with Barbara Marks Hubbard to create something called Awakening the New Species in You. We'd like to invite you to watch a couple of free webinars that we've already we've done here recently. If you go to awakeningnewspecies.com, you can register. You can see a couple of the webinars we filmed, and there's one coming up here on Friday, November 24th. It's at 1:30 Mountain Time. That's 12:30 Pacific Time, Friday the 24th. If you register on awakeningnewspecies.com, you can watch some of these webinars that are filmed and the one that's coming. Also, Bruce Lipton is one of our special guests on Awakening New Species. I know Bruce and Barbara talked recently. We're looking forward to bringing him onto that program. This is a year-round call to action or intensive called Awakening New Species Within You. Also, Humanities team is a member of the Conscious Business Alliance. It's composed of 4 global NGOs. Humanities team, the Club of Budapest based in Europe, the Goi Peace Foundation that gave Bruce his award based in Japan, and the Fowler Center for Business is an agent of public benefit out of Case Western Reserve University. We call ourselves the Conscious Business Alliance. We've created a Conscious Business Declaration. Bruce Lipton is one of the founding signatories. If you go to consciousbusinessdeclaration.org, you can read it. I see we've got it on the screen here. We invite you to, if you get an inner yes when you read it, we invite you to sign it, invite your friends, family, and coworkers to sign it. It's important, what Bruce is sharing is true, that this is, that it's actually a positive thing that we're in crisis, because crisis creates the opportunity for a birth, for creating heaven on earth. This Conscious Business Declaration is about that. It's about bringing consciousness into business so that businesses go from the love of business to the business of love. If that resonates with you, I invite you to go to consciousbusinessdeclaration.org, read it, and sign it. Invite others to sign it. Upcoming programs that you don't want to miss. On Friday, November 24th is this 12:30 Pacific time, this 90-minute program with Barbara Marks Hubbard and me on awakening a new species in you. It's about how we can embody Homo Universalis, this new heaven on earth species. Then on Thursday, the 30th of November at 9 o'clock Pacific time, we're doing a program with Mark Nepo. He's amazing. You'll want to tune into that program. And then a week later on Thursday, December 7th, I'm doing a special program with James O'D. We're going to be talking about his soul awakening practice, which is really awesome. You can see all of the upcoming programs, register for them, and also get a link to programs that you missed so you can hear them after the fact, all for free by going to livinginone.com. Livinginone.com is where you register for those programs. This program is focused on living in oneness, so we want to invite you to something called Community Circle. It's only $10 a month. It's an intentional community for people all over the world who are living in oneness. You can collaborate and connect with other leaders like yourself who are living in oneness and in spiritual activism. It gives you continuous access to over 350 programs like this, some in video, some in audio, from the Living in Oneness Summit and Global Oneness Day. You can listen year-round anytime that you want with friends and family. There's also a weekly book club. There's a Zoom program like this where people come together and share about the journey. There are many different dimensions to Community Circle, and it's only $10 a month. I think we're putting a link here, and you can see it on the slide. We're putting a link in the window and on the Humanities Team website. If you just come down to the rectangle that says Community Circle, you can click on it there to learn more also. So I invite you to learn about that. Okay, as we're wrapping up, I want to come back again and thank all of the team here. Bruce Lipton, our special guest, Anna Marie Peters, my co-host, and my partners here that are running this program, Garth Catterall, Christine Glenn, you can see Nanette Kennedy, Dee Meyer. Thank you to all of the team that's been involved in creating and producing this event. And of course, thank you to each of you for being here and participating in this program. And in closing, I want to invite all of us to really live as one. Bruce uses his own language that talks about the same thing. He says, you know, we're not the TV set, we're the signal, consciousness, right? We're an emanation of the divine. So we use different words, but we're absolutely saying the same thing. And we want to invite all of you, let's really live as one, live this way in the presence, peace, and power, in the consciousness, as Bruce would say, of this one presence that we are. Thank you, everybody. Bruce, Anna Marie, thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yeah, we're going to have you back soon here, Bruce. You're awesome. Love and thanks. Yeah, to Sally, your assistant who sets these things up for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks everybody. We'll be back soon here.